way, we'll go into drafting the contracts, and then at that point get those signed. Any questions from myself or Alliance Engineering?
Do they have a written time frame?
They have 210 days to complete the project. Now certainly inclement weather or long periods of weather could possibly affect that, but.
You're welcome to step up.
Yeah.
And say anything you want to add at this point.
We were just here in case you have any questions. We didn't think that, I know that y'all probably discussed this at length, but just in case something came up, we're just here to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any penalties should they go over, or are there any? There are.
Yes, we have. Well, you have to make sure that that's written and spelled out in your contracts. But in the bid documents, we've got liquidated damages at $1,500 a day.
Okay. What about in the reverse if they finish before?
We try to find ways as far as having a reward for early finish, and have not been able to get any kind of legal verbiage that would be acceptable to anybody today. I mean, not to say that you couldn't have that, but at this time we don't have it.
So it's not in the contract.
Now, you all are satisfied with the awarded to the lowest bidder?
Yes, sir.
I noticed that we had reference letters. Did we consider where in the past we have awarded to lowest bidders and it has not turned out to be the best choice? Did we consider looking at perhaps the next lowest, the previous lowest to those and look at their references also?
No, sir. Once we got the 5 references back from Wiley Easton, and once we spoke to all 5 of their references, and they all had nothing but positive things about them, saying their work ethic, the quality of work, the budget, time constraints as far as change orders being on schedule. We didn't see any need to pursue any of the bidders other than the lowest bidder.
What's the best value bid? You remember how county let the process, because I never saw what they did put out.
It was for the lowest bidder.
So that would probably be a best value bid.
Okay.
Typically with that, the majority of the bid is, 60% of the bid is based on dollar figure, which would require them to take the lowest bid. Based on how you word the RFP.
County was comfortable with the lowest bid also.
I would assume
The
so. I mean,
county-
Alliance is engineers for both sides, for us and the county.
Right.
We're both paying them for the engineering work,
Right.
so.
And the county's approved, has given approval to award them the contract pending our approval.
Okay.
And I did notice that Wiley has had their engineering contractor's license longer than any of the other bidders.
Something to say about that.
Okay.
But, you know, at the end of the day, the county's neck is on the line just as much as ours is in this
Right.
process. And they have bond money that if they don't spend it, I think by the end of the year, they have to relinquish it. So they're under the gun to get the project done too.
Any other questions? Okay.
Do I hear a motion to accept,
We're going to accept or we're going to award to the lowest bidder, award the contract to the lowest bidder. And I'll make that motion.
all right, do we want to state the dollar value in the motion for $1,693,472.80?
I didn't write it down.
I did.
It's on
Got a motion by Bob, got a second?
motion.
Second.
Charles, I believe, jumped on that one, didn't he? Any more discussion? All right, District 1.
Now, before we go to
Sir.
vote, this is just for the infrastructure. This is not for the cosmetics and the
This,
landscaping.
That
Well,
would be
that's-
the county.
That's
that's the
county's
county's,
part.
and
Ours.
ours is water and
So
sewer. And as I put in this is Another bid will be coming out later, but we're not associated with that. That's for the county, and that'll be the signage and landscaping and those things. This primarily includes the roads and electrical, for the
Our
county.
portion is water and sewer.
Yeah. And this is taking care of all of what we're responsible
Our
for.
responsibility.
Same thing that we saw January a year ago. This is the scope of work that Alliance had provided us. It's been what has it been, a year?
Since we
Yeah,
began the process,
it's been
about
a year.
Good.
Okay, all right, District 1,
District one votes yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 4,
District 4 votes yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
District 8,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So the county has a contract.
Amen.
All right, to go back, Charles, to catch you up, and Frank, I think you heard me on the back side of it. The second part of the election for the sheriff was today in an uncontested race. He is to be sworn in tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. So with that being said, the last multi-jurisdictional agreement we had with Lexington County specifically names Lewis McCarty as the sheriff. So as of 10 o'clock in the morning, that contract is null and void. If we wait until the next council meeting to adopt the contract, our officer that's part of that task force goes for some weeks without any jurisdictional authority to do any prosecution, any kind of arrest or investigations or anything else. So it was decided that this was one of those rare emergency situations that we needed to put this on the agenda to vote on it tonight. So this is the same contract that we voted on for years and years, but it specifically names Sheriff Brian J. Coon as a Lexington County, a representative for Lexington County Sheriff's Department. So I need a motion to adopt this agreement.
So moved.
Motion from Charles.
Second.
Second. Rachel? Any discussion? District 1,
District one votes yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 4,
District 4 votes yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
District 8,
Yes.
and I say yes. And I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Then we are adjourned.
Can we take one second? Chief's about to come in,
Sure.
and I'll just update you.
Well, Bob and Charles all at the same time.
Well, Mr. Charles is the motion and Bob is adjourned. That's okay.
That's all right with me.
I'm not gonna date this. Or do I date it?
No,
The county will sign it tomorrow, all I'm gonna do is sign it.
Yeah, they can date it.
Ooh, by me, what's it?
Mayor, yes, Mayor.
Yeah, that is throws me off all the time.
No, I know.
I like it when it says by title.
And witness? Oh shoot, I should have signed it blue.
Did I just not remember the code, or is it?
Don't ask me.
I had a
I do
problem
it
with
once
it
upon
too.
a time, but I've never
That's the
tried it.
stuff couldn't get in.
I couldn't get it twice.
Maybe they changed the bill number.
Yeah, right.
I guess it says witness. In fact, let me just give you this whole, you can do that. There's the top part.
Oh, you signed in the wrong place, you signed for Lexington County.
No, I didn't. Oh, we'll print another copy, chief. You did too then.
What's he got going on next? In church, it said.
Do what? What? Go on if you want. I signed the wrong line. Could we print another copy?
Raced out when you were coming in.
Yeah, I can help you do that.
Just six, chief,
It's just a
just
signature
page
page.
6, the
And I'll
page,
file it, we'll go up to the PD and I'll sign it, and he can witness it.
that's fine.
Or the dispatcher, or anybody.
That's good, that's good.
All right, chief, where was that flying from?
Huh?
You've been flying, I don't know, it's something about Perry.
Oh, that's all right.
that's
Yeah, there's a club down that way,
Yeah,
yeah.
Let me just
it's
touch
Perry,
that.
that's what he said, because I thought originally he came from Aiken, because I know they got one in Aiken too.
Do you know his name?
Yeah, he's from Canada.
Maj was his last name,
French
M-A-J.
Okay.
Was
Mine.
it illegal for him to land there?
When Clyde, you ain't got no choice.
He didn't mean to.
Well, they had just said there were so many police there, I just wanted to.
No, we was just,
It was something to see. I almost went over there too, because I was like, Twin City News has an article on their website already
Oh,
about
do
it.
they?
Yeah, the Twin City News, the last name, it was Maj, M-A-J. And he was from Canada, Toronto, and he was headed to Newbury, hit some heavy headwinds, and only had 1,000 feet. And so he's like, it's a good place to park right there. So, yeah. The towing fee's gonna be expensive.
No, they probably got trailers they throw everything into.
Yeah, I mean, the wings will come off and they'll do a trailer.
Take the wings off and slide them in and put them in the trailer.
We're in the work session now. Need to call order the work session for, discussion on budget, general fund budget for, fiscal year 15-16.
Okay, this is not a formal presentation of the general fund budget in final form. This is some things that we need to iron out, talk through, some things we want to let y'all know up front and get some feedback on, and state some of the new requirements that are going to be a part of this budget. Let's talk real quick about some positive budgetary impacts that we've had through this past year. Obviously, the business license ordinance changed, the property tax increase, the building permit fee, and then cost-saving strategies that we've done on our side have put us in a good position going forward to have more options with regards to some capital purchasing. And they've just had overall positive effects on the budget this year. We want to let y'all know some of the cost saving strategies real quick that we've done. Our uniform provider, we had some discussions with him. Our uniform costs for the town have come down. We've begun to purchase our supplies in bulk. We're purchasing from new providers that are offering us cheaper prices. Employee cell phone allowances have been adjusted. We're doing more electronic file sharing versus printing. We've gone with the rounding time clock method to cut down on some of the frivolous overtime. We have changed some hourly employees to salary that are in supervisor positions, and we've made a change to the flower and memorials policy that has actually saved us a decent amount of money as well. And there's other minor little things that we've done that have helped to conserve and put things back into the budget.
Can we ask questions as we go along?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
How many complaints have you gotten backing up to, and the reason I ask is, just with some of the cost savings from your employees. I was told today that there was some grumbling among employees about the changes that were being made, and
I'll say this, obviously, anytime you bring change,
sure,
there's going to
exactly
be some grumbling. You know, the time clock rounding method, we're one of, I'll be honest, I had employees telling me I've worked many different places and I've never been paid by the minute. It's always been in 15-minute increments, 30-minute increments, things like that. I mean, we pay per minute. And so we have people clocking in 10 minutes early every day.
is that an area you received complaints? Have you heard?
There was a little pushback in the beginning, but at this point, there's been nothing recently with that. With the cell phone allowances, there was a little pushback from those that receive it, which was not an astronomical amount. It was 3, 5, 6 people that were getting a cell phone allowance, and they were getting $50 a month. I can provide a town cell phone for $29.70, so we took the cell phone allowance to $30. More in line with what we could give a town cell phone, and there were some people that were receiving cell phone allowances that are not now receiving them, that were non-supervisors or department heads, that it just didn't make sense for them to be receiving the phone allowance. So there was some pushback on that.
How many did that affect? You said about 6.
3, no allowance any longer.
So
and there was
a total
about
maybe 9.
there was a total of 6. altogether townwide, the allowance and that change, made. That's really about, and with the change from hourly to salary, we had one. We had one. But that's been it, so. But, and all of those were early on, that it hasn't carried on at this point, so, you know, change does cause some of that, but it's not been in a mass quantity of employees. There are some considerations tonight that we're gonna need to take into account and discuss a little bit. One of the things is talking about bulk item pickup in town. Currently, advanced disposal provides the household collection, the town provides lemon leaf, and the town provides bulk pickup, which is mattresses, tables, chairs, plastic toys. I've been looking at the list of what we actually.
What doesn't go into Herbie Kirby, in other words.
Yeah, what won't go into Herbie Kirby, essentially. And now the bulk item pickup, David has started. I've had a lot of conversations with David about this. The majority of the people that utilize bulk pickup are people that rent property in the apartment complexes. And I'll tell you what, I'm actually diving into it before. I got a slide on this here shortly, so we'll talk a little bit more about bulk coming up. Dispatch has been a discussion. With regards to the budget, it's time for us to start looking at a direction and coming up. And Chief and I have had something that we agree on. We mutually agree that we think that's the best route for us to take, and we'll discuss that here in just a few minutes. Want to talk with you a little bit more tonight about lease purchasing of capital equipment that's needed versus just outright purchasing of capital equipment. And then council pay, the setup of council pay, we'll talk a little bit more about that, and a part of that's going to be how we handle the MASC annual meeting each year. So back to the bulk pickup. We have a direct cost of $30,000 to $35,000 annually. That's what bulk costs us. So when that guy when that citizen puts a mattress out beside the road, the town goes and picks it up, we throw it in a dumpster, we're paying $30,000 to $35,000 a year to get it taken to a landfill, with landfill costs, mileage, tonnage, and all those other factors that are listed on that. Again, it's primarily used by renters. People that don't even live in town, that they either evict the tenant or the tenant moves out and leaves stuff behind, and they go and they throw all this bulk stuff out by the road. Just the other day on the 17th, our street guys went out and they had put an entire storage shed from the backyard worth of stuff out and an entire outfitted inside of a home out by the road. It took 4 truckloads and filled up an entire dumpster. That one pickup cost us hundreds of dollars. And that's because a renter moved out or was evicted. And so bulk items, you know, at this point, our street department, putting it the way it is, needs 2 guys in another truck to keep up with the amount of lemon leaves. There's some weeks they don't even get through lemon leaf pickup entirely. And so, kind of in an effort to find a balance here, one of the things we want you guys to consider is doing away with bulk pickup in the town. We have a collection station within 3 miles of everyone in this town. The reality is there's the option to give it to Goodwill. Take it to the collection station. And one of the things that we're talking about is the town can still provide this service, but you have to call in advance. And we'll charge for what our fees will be to dispose of those bulk items. Indirectly, this frees up a lot of time for our street department, actually eliminates the need for 2 guys, having the need to buy 2 truck, hire 2 employees and buy a new truck for that department. One of the things you'll see in the capital list is still the potential of hiring one person for the street department. But it takes a lot of time. We had 27 collections last week overall for the entire town. And 18 of those were renters.
You're talking about bulk collection.
Bulk collection, not lemon leaf, not household renters, just bulk.
Didn't our current company that does our trash collection, recycling, make an offer to us about picking that up?
We did receive an offer. Their offer was to go up $1.37 a month on everyone's bill and increase the contract by 3 years.
Now think about how many homes that is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Several $1,000s a month increase.
yeah.
And most of us do not.
And it would be across the board, it would charge you, it would charge me, whether we put anything out by the street or not. And
Because I have a pickup truck and I'll take my stuff.
I told Ted, I just didn't find that equitable to everybody in town.
I know, I'm just thinking, it's kind of balancing the load between, I never put anything out. And the person that doesn't have a pickup truck to be able to take it there. It's kind of,
But there's options, and you know, if I have something I need to take from my house that's heavy, I typically call a buddy, we throw it on the trailer, and I take it to the collection station. And so, now, there are those situations that someone may call, it's an elderly person that has no family living around here, keeps to themselves.
Well, they typically can't get it to the road.
Right, and they typically can. The person that gets it out there would haul it off for them. You know, my recommendation and what we look at is eliminating the weekly pickup of bulk items. But we put the verbiage in there that allows the town to do it with advanced notice, at least 2 or 3 days advance notice or something like that. And it would be at the cost that it cost us to dispose of it in the landfill.
if we do that, I'd like to make sure that we give plenty of advance notice, otherwise we're gonna see stuff out on the side of the road regardless.
And you
Well, I
guys
think we'd have to say at least 48 hours advance
No,
notice.
I'm not talking about
before
notifying our
you-
citizens.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. We will do a
Yeah,
blitz, we will do a blitz of information out there about this. And I'm sure Dave, as code enforcement, will spend a significant amount of time early on going out to inform
Well,
people.
it probably needs to go, people don't see it on the water bill, but it probably needs to go out as a separate mailer to the
Yeah.
homes.
So we can
That way
talk
they can't say, I
about,
didn't know.
we
when
can
it
talk
goes
about
direct
all
mail.
options for notification to the public.
This, if we were to do away with it entirely, this money would still stay in the street department, correct?
This would free up $30,000 to $35,000 in the budget.
But for the street department.
Am I in the budget gonna directly take it and put it in the street? No, well, my philosophy is we put it within a pot of money that's extra money. But like I said, we've got one employee on there, and that's one of the things for us to talk about as a capital need, is one additional employee for the street department. That can make a significant difference to the beautification efforts, the grass cutting, sidewalk maintenance, and some of those things to improve the aesthetic looks. And what you could say is it's not us taking the money from here and sticking it here, but if that capital need's approved, you really are pulling that money over. It's just coming out of the pot that it's been put in.
Ted,
Yes, sir.
have you considered, say, option 3, instead of going from picking up weekly to eliminating or paying to pick up altogether? Perhaps a monthly pickup with the persons who have any bulk to pick up to notify the street department?
One of my early on thoughts was to go to a monthly pickup. So maybe the third Friday of the month or fourth Friday of the month, something like that.
What concerns me is, as you mentioned, the senior citizens who may need to discard something, but they may not be able to afford to have it removed, or they may have someone to set it out, but don't have means to discard it.
Right.
But if we had a monthly pickup, we could tell them, well, look, this is the time that we pick up during the month. If you would call town hall, they would stop by and get it, and so the service is still there, but not to the point that it was.
And that's the thought I had early on. The other side of that sword is that most people, and you're right, the elderly, but see, here's the thing, if the elderly have something that needs to be disposed of and they physically can't do it, someone's coming to take it out of their house and put it out by the road.
Right.
That if they know we're not collecting it, they can just go ahead and load it in the back of their truck or something like that and take it off.
But they can get a 10-incher to do that.
And they may be able to. And the other side of this, that is, and that was my initial thought, was to go from weekly to monthly.
What about even limiting the amount, if you go to the monthly, that you can put by the road? As a landlord myself, you know, it would never cross my mind to put everything out there for the town. If we had a tenant move out that we needed to, we would haul it off. And I think it should certainly be the landlord's responsibility if their tenants do not, if they evict them, that it shouldn't become the town's responsibility.
Yeah, but at the same time,
We're talking about homeowners, not,
but
That's what's happening though.
But our street crew doesn't
It's
have the
rental.
ability to know what's a rental home or our own piece of property.
Well,
primary
obviously,
residence.
apartments, it's not a.
My one
situation.
fear for going to a monthly pickup is people are going to stockpile, and there's going to be more than
Then-
our department can humanly pick up in one day. If they had 27 loads in 1 week, and you multiply that across 4 weeks, and they're trying to pick it up in 1 day, it ain't happening.
Well, along with that, my concern is that people are gonna pile it out by the road the first
Yeah,
week of
it's
the month, and it's
gonna
gonna
And
sit there
then
for
they're
3
Yeah,
all-
well,
months.
That's right.
That's a risk you run. And then the other side of this is, people don't, if they're ready to get rid of it, they don't want it to sit there a month.
right.
They're gonna get it out of there, they're gonna take it to collection station or Goodwill or somewhere like that, because they don't want it sitting around for a month. And all of that is what we kind of took into account, which led to us presenting these two options, because the monthly was my initial thought in just analyzing everything and talking it through. It just seemed like there was a lot of concerns with that option.
Right, which
Yeah.
I think would be, that third option would be a little more less dramatic. And if there's still a problem, then we can come back to the table and make some adjustments.
Well, and again, we're here for y'all's direction on which way we want to go tonight. That's why this is up for
But
discussion.
he had
'Cause-
first, throw this out there, when he first mentioned it, I kind of, And then I started looking at municipalities, particularly since the rental property is the big concern for us and the ones that are the highest volume contributors. So I looked at Newberry, I looked at Greenwood, I looked at Clemson. And there was one other municipality where you see a number of renters because of the college environment. And they either had a fee for service or they didn't pick up, period. There wasn't any wiggle room one time a month. It was either you called within 48, 72 hours in advance, and they had an established fee. Some of them, one of them had an established fee of like $45 a load, and they defined the load, or they just didn't pick it up, period. It was the property owner's responsibility to dispose of the item.
And I will say, we have a collection station very conveniently located near our town in the city.
Yeah, we got out of the garbage business a long time ago for a reason, and
Yeah.
And again, we're at your direction on this. We know that bulk has presented issues in many, many ways. And that's why we want to bring it from financially to workload.
How many guys does it actually
Who cares?
take?
you witnessed it.
And do they always take
They have
two?
everybody on every
Oh,
Friday committed to
it's-
just
it's
bulk
the
pickup.
whole- Really?
Yeah, because you think about what it takes to lift bed frames, it's not one man show just tossing it in the back of the truck. There's times they have to get loader backhoes out there for certain bulk items.
I would tend to lean towards option 2 myself. But because I know that just some people that, I think about my district, the people down there, they don't have pickup trucks, they're elderly, they don't have a whole lot of money. They,
Right.
Right.
they need some way of getting, there are a lot of renters down there.
Right.
Yeah, you know, like Rachel, I got some rental property. I've had to throw some people out, but I never even thought about putting it on the street. I put it in the, I waited about a month for somebody to say, pay you the money or get rid of, or
Yeah,
that stuff or something like that. It went in the truck and went out there.
Right. And we think both of these are
But not
very
everybody has
valid.
that opportunity.
We think both of these are very valid options, and that's why we wanted to put it before you guys to kind of paint that direction in which way we want to steer this. Because either way, from the budgetary financial side of this, it zeroes out. That 30,000 from the budgetary side and preparing it. Because if it's a paid service, well, obviously the pay is going to equal our cost. And so eliminating it altogether eliminates the cost.
Well,
So,
we got out of the garbage business a long time ago. Number one, the DHEC regulations and the environmental regulations, but number two, for the cost to the town.
Yeah.
That it was easier and more, not easier, but more economical to contract it out to somebody that's picking up 10,000 customers than 3,000. So I don't, $30,000 just to pick up other people's discards and furniture and beds and sofas and junk from the houses is a lot of money for the town to provide. And I bet if you could go back over 2 or 3 years, you're going to see it be the same addresses consistently.
oh yeah. And
And
David
so
said that
you've
it's a
got-
lot of
You've
the
got
same
some of
people.
these heavy renters that have a great deal of turnover that are doing this discard. And the town's their garbage service. And they're making money off of the people that are there, so they're discarding it and it's not costing them a thing.
Well, like I say, I think if we go to option 2 and make them pay for picking it up, they might decide they can find a friend and pick up a truck.
And that's what you're gonna see too. If there is a fee involved, you're gonna probably see people load it up in a trailer and run it up to the collection station, because that's free.
I think for the seniors, the word is just quietly put out there that if they are in extremis and they have something that they really need to have discarded, A, get in touch with your church. B, call Ted and let's see what we can work out.
Well, I agree with that.
Because we're not gonna leave anybody hanging.
Right.
But I don't want to continue to provide services to be the garbage elimination for these people that consistently keep dumping.
This is not in any way indicative of, we're not here to serve and help when we need to. Okay, and one of the things that I want us to research is the goodwill in town. I believe goodwill, if you call and you have items that you want to donate and you have circumstances such as being elderly, I do think they may send a truck out there to come pick it up with a
I
couple
know they
guys.
do in Columbia, I'm not sure about.
But we can call the local
And
goodwill.
in light of this, it may be something that they're willing to provide.
Right. We can tell them that the change that we're potentially looking at. And, people have put some pretty nice stuff out by the road for collection.
His house used to come down here and pick up. I
Yeah.
don't think they do
I've
that
shopped side of the road
anymore.
before.
And so I think we may be able to talk to
All the
the,
time.
we'll reach out to some charitable organizations and tell them what we're looking at doing. And see if we can't get a commitment from someone that if you have someone call in, they've got circumstances, we'll come pick it up. Give us a call.
i.e., elderly.
His house, Goodwill, elderly people, something like that. We can reach out and see.
Yeah, let's qualify what the criteria will be, so you're not so
That's
open-ended.
right.
If you've got a senior citizen that has no means, we can define that, because that would be just in internal policy.
And there are a lot of churches that are willing to help out too.
Now, this is going to require revision of our ordinance,
Right.
so keep that in mind too as we go into this. So, whatever your provision is to help people that may legitimately need it would be an internal policy that we're
That's
going to
right.
put in ordinance.
That's right. So, y'all, I think you guys have given me, the way I'm understanding it at this point is, I will proceed forward for now with the budget. Without bulk indicating 30,000 back into the budget for us to use towards other services.
But you are,
Pending the
revision.
approval of a amended
but we're
ordinance.
talking about a policy change so that we'll pick it up with advance notice, with pay for the cost of getting rid of the stuff.
With the hardship clause.
We're not gonna put a hardship clause in there.
We'll have kind
That's
of
just
an
gonna be
internal
internal. We don't wanna put that in writing out there, because then you'll have everybody in the brother claiming they've got a
Yeah.
hardship, so.
Yeah.
That's where we talk it through, and we have an internal policy with some criteria, and when we're talking with them, we can kind of hit on those criteria, and if they need it, we'll do what we need to do.
And I say
to
that so
take care of it.
profoundly because when I was doing Mission B&L,
Mm-hmm.
one year back down behind Bob, we won't go into whose house it was, I had 15 young people in that yard cleaning up the wilderness,
Right.
and her teenage son was sitting in the house watching television.
Okay, I follow you.
So, yeah, it needs to be on an internal, and let's not put it in a written policy.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to be a discretionary thing. And gosh, the people with the street department know the people, and
They do.
between
They're
the
very
people in
aware.
the town hall and the people in the street department, they know who lives where and who needs help and who doesn't.
Right.
Okay.
And I still don't think that is going to be a problem because of, it's mainly gonna be renters and apartment complex.
I'll tell you, the people that are gonna likely balk to this are the people that don't even live in town that rent
Right.
property. I mean, that's gonna be the majority of the people that may present a problem with this. You may have a couple people that have primary residents here in the town that come forth and say something, but again, it's not a huge population that's using it here in the town. There's really not a lot of stops monthly, weekly and stuff. It's the amount of stuff that they have to collect. It's not a town-wide, everybody's using it service.
What I've experienced in the past, especially on Rawls Drive, if you set something out that's not totally dilapidated or unusable.
Somebody gets
Somebody else
Just
does.
stop by and pick it
Usually
up
that's what
right.
happens, that's
Before
true.
the town gets.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right, well, y'all indicated a direction for us to look at moving for that, not only in creating that ordinance and beginning some push out into the public about it, but for the budget as well. Chief, come on up here. Let's talk about dispatch for a couple minutes.
Let
Alright.
me get my daughter to pick up my son
Let me see what the next
at
one
church.
is. Seth, hit this real quick. I'll let Seth talk about employee health insurance while he's making a quick call. We can jump back.
I'm not calling.
Sure. So one of the very first things Ted asked me to look at when I got on board was to look at how we can create and achieve some cost savings in the employee health insurance program that we are currently enrolled in. And so right now, just the health insurance piece for the town, it's currently at $402 per employee.
Per month?
Per month.
Per month.
Is what our premium per employee cost share is. We pass on $45 to each employee, and the town picks up $402, which is a good portion there. So we're looking to bring that cost down. We've worked with a number of different providers. We've gone to Blue Cross Blue Shield directly. We've gone through our current provider, which is Chad Sanders.
Let's name them all real quick.
Yeah, we've gone, so Chad's is bringing several to the table. We've also gone to Southern Benefit Associates, Southern Benefit Systems.
Yeah.
Systems. They've got 5 different sister companies, so sometimes they get jumbled together. And so they're looking, so we've been able to do a health survey with staff, and Southern Benefit Systems is looking to bring our costs down into $300 to $350 range. And using a top tier provider like Blue Cross Blue Shield. And so we're hoping to have our solid final numbers in the next 2 to 3 weeks once our renewal comes out, which will say how much liability and exposure we had this past year, how much cost went out, and what our rates would be for next year from our current provider, which is Coventry, which is through Antietam. And so we hope that from the initial information we've received through Southern Benefits, that we will see a decrease. We're waiting still to see what Chad can bring to the table as well from that venue. And then I personally just reached out to Blue Cross Blue Shield's their retail section. I called one of their stores up and just asked them. Blue Cross Blue Shield, and just asked them to come out and talk to me and see what they could get for us. And they were a little higher than that 402 range. They were about almost up to $500, but the plan was very different than what we have now. much more user-friendly, so to speak. And so that was the retail number. Now we'll see in the next few weeks the wholesale numbers come back in from Chad and from Southern Benefit Systems. And so we're hoping to bring that number down to the 300 range, 300
Are
350.
employees pretty satisfied with the quality of insurance?
Right.
No,
No.
the best phrase I like with it is it's more of a coupon program than anything else. And there's been a number of issues with it. There's the in-network, outer-network issue. If you're this way from town, you're in-network. If you're that way, you're out-of-network. Your in-network, outer-network is based on your zip code. Doctor selection issues and things like that. So the choices that we're looking at moving forward are going to be
A better
premier,
package.
better package, and we're even looking at, because right now the deductible for an employee is $6,000 a year, and so they have to reach that before there's even a 70-30 share, and so and then you're looking at the doctor copay visit is $25. Specialist is even higher, and it's just not very user-friendly for some of our folks who do need it from time to time. And so we're hoping that we're going to get a better care package for everyone, include incentives for smoking cessation, weight loss, other health savings that they can achieve, and then hopefully a better premium each month for the town, so that way we can take those savings, reinvest them into other services, and not have to go up too much on the employee contribution. The employees, like I said, pay $45 a month, so it's a little over $11 a paycheck if they're paid weekly, and which is
Is
very
that for
manageable.
family coverage or is that single coverage?
That's single.
That's just
Unfortunately,
single.
yeah, we only pay the $402, whether that's against the employee only or if they go for a full family coverage. We even looked at going into the state plan, but that plan, as I spoke to Mr. Charles about a few weeks ago, was just I spoke to both of y'all actually, yeah, and that it's not workable for our organization because we would have no control over cost at all, because you essentially allow the employee to pick any plan that they choose, and then we have to pay a mandated portion, which would actually double our current year's cost or out-of-pocket expenses for healthcare insurance. So, but we should know in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'm hoping to know the end by this week, but I said let's put 2 to 3 on the slide just in case they don't get to me by Friday. But
I really want our staff, present company excluded, to understand the $45 a month contribution is nothing. On state health plan, my contribution is $100 a paycheck for me. For family, for you in Kinsley, it was $149 per paycheck. So we're talking $11 a paycheck for staff. Now, I have been saying for years that I really thought the contribution ought to be a little higher than $11 a paycheck. We'll cross that bridge at some point.
And I think a lot of this boils down, ultimately what we're hoping to see is a reduction in the town's cost, improved insurance for the staff, and overall just a better experience with health insurance. The problem is, and the trend that we have in town, and what a lot of municipalities have right now, is it's just this every year. Every year. Every year. And we wanted to get more competitive this year. You get people competing, people get creative, and you end up with better packages and even at a cheaper rate. And so any reduction that we have in this is going to positively impact our budget and allow us to do more. And that's what we're trying to achieve.
How much do you communicate with the employees as far as that you're looking into
They know
this? They do know?
they all had to help complete surveys, health
Yeah,
surveys.
great,
Yeah.
great. And to me, that's kind of the core deal is to make sure that they're aware of what's going on and it's not just sprung on them, you know?
All right. We're gonna jump back to dispatch real quick.
Folks, I want to use whiteboard here because I have to I don't have a slide, but I think I need to show y'all
Let me-
something.
No, I'll just give that.
Can y'all see that or? Is
When,
Your light.
you know, like, okay.
in all fairness,
A lot of light.
No, it's projecting, it's
Yeah.
blue screen.
in all fairness to, this all started last, July. Lexington County Council voted on it, and I'm gonna try to bring y'all up real quick, and I go,
And don't pay any attention to the editorial that was in the paper yesterday.
oh, it wasn't editorial.
Oh, yeah, it was a
yeah.
piece
I
of
didn't see
crap.
that.
yeah.
Oh, it was bad.
It got my blood
I'll
going,
send
I
it to
couldn't
you,
have
it was a
good
piece of
sleep.
crap,
Well, I'm glad I didn't see it then.
Today, wasn't it?
Last night.
last night.
Last night?
Okay, what happened, July of last year, the county council voted, without our knowledge, that we would either, when I say we, it's us, West Columbia, Casey. Let me back up. There are 4 PSAPs in Lexington County. PSAP is the operating system for 911. Ever since it was first brought in the 80s, I was on the initial board that brought 911 in here. I was on the planning board back then in the 80s. And back then, Lexington County said, Mom Bell back then wanted one entity to work with for 911, but they didn't care how many PSAPs we have. So the Lexington County volunteered. I was at the meetings and said that they would be the administrator and we could keep our own PSAPs, which was us, West Columbia, Casey. It's been that way ever since. Well, now, since Lexington County built their $14 million dispatch center, they wanted to take over all the PSAPs. And I really think they thought the 3 of us would just go say, okay, take it, because, and in all fairness to Frank Townsend, I got Frank Townsend's book. The book, it's got his name on it, the one that the county gave to him in July that he voted on. And they voted on this without telling us anything. We found out about it in August. That's when we found out about it. That they put out numbers, and I'm gonna write this down so you can see it, that capital outlay and yearly operation 911 for West Columbia Casey is costing the county $352,000. That was the numbers that they put in this book per PSAP, per West Columbia Casey. And they kept saying that they can't keep subsidizing the towns for this amount of money. And I kept asking, how are you calling it subsidizing when Lexington County taxpayers live in our town and pay Lexington County taxes? But that was the word they kept using. Well, when Ted came on board with me, we got together and started looking at all these numbers. We called AT&T in ourselves when we had by the time we had our first meeting finally with the county in September. After they told us about it in August, in September we had our first meeting with the county. The numbers then changed to a capital outlay cost of $110,000 and then a continuing cost of $82,000. Just what it all of a sudden dropped from this number to this number, which was a lot more realistic of what he and I had found out that AT&T said was the real cost. Now what this capital outlay, this is a one-time cost every 5 years that they say needs to be done now, because our last PSAP was put in 2008 when I got back from Afghanistan, was when it was put in. And so that's every 5-year capital outlay, but it's not every year, every 5 years. This is every year. That pays for the upkeep of the 911 system. And believe it or not, the biggest cost of that goes to them to give us addressing. The addressing that comes up on the 911 system was $42,000, I think, of that, wasn't it? Something like that. $42,000 of that was just for the addressing. And I forgot to think about it, the liability of that, because that has to be right. And I guess the liability of it is what makes it so high. So we continue to go to meetings, and we went to meetings with everyone. And also what we found out that Lexington County Council, there again too, in fairness to the council members, they were not told that even of this number, the state, then it was 70%, now it's 80% of that money is reimbursed by the state. They weren't
To
told.
Lexington County?
Yeah.
To Lexington County, they weren't told that. They didn't know that until I went to one of the county councilmen and told them that, and I get this deer in the headlight look. We weren't told that, yes.
All this time, we're still having the July deadline?
Yes, all this time, they gave us the deadline of April. They said April, we had to tell them by April, and the drop dead date was July. That we either had to take it over or turn it over to them in July. because they said the system that we got now, was not gonna be, could not be, fixed anymore after July 1. Well, the AT&T guy said, no, not exactly. The company's not gonna make parts for it anymore after July 1. But they're not gonna say they're not gonna fix it anymore after July 1. They just gonna stop making parts at that point for it, which at least gives safely another year, you know, or more with the system we got now. So these are the numbers that was thrown out there at first, and that was what came out of the meetings that Ted and I were going to, that kept, and every time we meet with the state and or the county's line would change about who's doing what and who's gonna do what and everything else. So, what it boiled down to, the last meeting we went to a few weeks ago, there was 3 options they were putting out. Let me back up. At every one of these meetings, us, West Columbia, Casey, all had the same, basically the same, we were saying the same thing, that the county could not provide the personal service to our people and to our police officers that the county does. We all were saying the same thing. And what I mean by that, not to try to put down, you know, we kept trying not to get into a bashing game with Lexington County with their dispatch. We kept trying to prevent that. But the realistically, what happens all the time is that the county people sitting in that P.O. box now over in Lexington have no earthly idea who the people are in town, who the streets are, where the streets are. Right now, Rachel, if you went over in front of Owens Road and you saw an elderly person fall, and you dialed 911, and if we didn't have it and it went to the county, the first thing they go ask you is what address. You go say, well, I don't know what the address is. I'm in front of Owens Road. What's the numerics? I have no idea what the numerics are. Now, you may know, but you know what I'm saying.
I absolutely.
They will not send you help until you can give them numerics. Now, what was strange about this too, when we brought that up at the last meeting we were at, Murgo stood up and emphatically said with the technology they got now, that could not happen anymore. That they got locator service technology, that could not happen. The Thursday before that Friday meeting, and I gave it to Ted, and I was standing in dispatch, a guy called 911 on the cell phone. You never know where it's going to hit. It hit us. And he said, hey, there's a guy on the side of the road rage, getting his butt whipped by a guy on Willow Street at Joe Hartley's junkyard. Well, immediately the dispatcher said, hold on, got some county, I'm going to transfer it. Transferred. When we transferred, we listened. We still listen. The dispatcher starts saying, well, where is, I don't know where Joe Hartley's junkyard is, which is exactly what Murgo said could not happen anymore. And he said, then it's at Wire Road. He gave them about 3 roads that were all in the county that were cross streets. The dispatcher said, well, that must be in Batesburg. I'm going to transfer you back. And our dispatcher keyed back in and said, no, Central, it is not in Batesburg. It's in the county. But they were about to send it back to us, even though we said it. And he just got through saying that couldn't happen. And it happened again, you know. So that was one of the biggest reasons that West Columbia Casey was giving. We wanted to keep our dispatch. So let me tell you folks, what we, the 3 options the county finally, the last meeting put out was we turn everything over to them, or we completely keep our own PSAPs and operate it ourselves at this number right here, which this number right here still is now, is no longer 70, it's 80% reimbursement.
The state reimburses the town?
Well, the last one that Murgo came up with was to keep it out of the state and knowing there's been any changes, that they would still handle it. And us, West Columbia Casey, he kept talking about them when this number came up to reimbursement, then he jumped on the admin cost. But every time we asked him for what, because the manager of Casey said, you tell us what admin costs are, we'll pay you the admin costs. You know, he never could give us the admin costs. He would never give us the admin costs. because he kept trying to say at first that there's this huge amount of admin costs to the county for administrating this for us.
Have they been showing a deficit in their budget?
No. Matter of fact, they have about $1 million plus right now in their budget for 911.
They, over the past 6 years, they've had a net gain in the E911 budget of $8.8 million, I think. They started this year's budget off with a $3.6 million fund balance. In the past 6 years, they've
And
transferred
it's
out,
costing them?
Yeah.
they've transferred out $4.5 million in the
I
past
never
6
could,
years.
there was two councilmen that came on and they kept talking, they using the word supplement. They can't keep supplementing towns. And I kept looking and I said, why are you using this word supplement? You're not supplementing town. Our people are Lexington County residents and they pay Lexington County taxes. That's all you in this room know, because you all pay it just like I did. You know, where does this word supplementing come from? You know, so, but let me tell you this, in all fairness, I have to tell you this. The last thing that the state guy said was that the state is looking at lowering the number of PSAPs throughout the state. And they're about to hire, I guess he was telling this to scare us, and it did kind of scare me, because I know exactly what he's talking about. When he starts talking about, they're about to hire a private consulting firm to come in and tell them how they can more efficiently and less money run the 911 system in the state of South Carolina. And anytime you talk about efficiency, you know, you're talking about fewer operating. Consolidation. That's what you're talking about. And exactly what I told them, and folks, I ain't telling them anything, or you anything that I didn't find out. I called a friend of mine in Anderson County. I rode over to Forest Acres to see how they run. I did a lot of research on this. But my friend in Anderson County, I think, put it the best, and that's exactly what I told them. And so, and maybe I'll be talking about some of you when I say the higher ups. No, I'm not. They said, he said, when you talk to what in budget class we used to call them the bean counters. When you talk to the higher ups, the people who count the money, they will or vote on the money. They will immediately tell you consolidation is efficient. Okay. But when you talk to the people that use the system, the police officers, the people who receive the services and all this, they will tell you it's the worst thing that ever happened. So you got, do you have a balancing act there, a balancing between making the money efficient, but yet not losing the service that you're giving your people, you know? So, like I said, the last street that the county gave us was they take it completely, we take it completely, or go to a one-button transfer where basically they take over 911 and then they kick anything that's police back to us on regular admin lines. Well, I never did quite, that to me was a live solution, but I never did quite like the idea of 911 going to admin lines. So why in the world this didn't come to me sooner, I don't know, but I finally threw back to Southern Vale, and they said it's completely operable to do.
What are admin lines?
Regular phone lines.
Oh.
Okay, regular phone
Just
lines in the police department.
Okay.
So I asked them then, I said, wait a minute, shouldn't it be possible with technology today that they kick back the police calls back to us on 911 lines? Basically, we reverse the 911 lines. And let me back up. Right now, if you dial 911, any of you that live in city limits, which you all do, and you dial 911, it comes up here. The dispatch says police, ambulance, or fire. If you say police, she dispatches police. It stays right here. If you say ambulance, she one button transfers it to Lexington, okay? Because they control the ambulance. So basically, we'll be reversing that. They'll all go to Lexington 911 with this third other option I looked at. And then if they say police, then they kick it back to us. But keeping it on 911 lines, we still get all the information. When it pops, it'll still pop on the screen, the location on the map, the address, the person that's calling, and all that will still come up on the screen just as it does now. So basically, we'll be operating off of like a remote of the Lexington County's 911 system. So what that would cost, the capital outlay of that is $67,000 And did I add up the continuing costs, it's about 10,000 a year? 700 and something a month, right?
Okay, that's what I was pulling.
Yeah, I think it was about
Here we go. So for this option, you're looking at a one-time cost this year of $67,496, which 80% of that
It's reimbursable.
reimbursable. We got one conversation to have to just completely confirm that they're gonna give us that reimbursement.
Right.
Total monthly reoccurring is $1,263.
So for,
So that adds up
About
to
$12,000. Well, about $13,000.
1263
Now,
times 12.
is that
15,156
also reimbursed of 80%?
That's reimbursed 80%.
That's reimbursed 80% too. Now,
It's qualifies
Yeah.
for reimbursement. One of the things.
we hadn't got an answer on it.
I'm gonna pop in real quick about this.
Yeah.
In this option, the county's last proposal, and what I think this was the last attempt to try and reach an agreement that wasn't what they had hoped, but hoped that we'll jump on it. Their last pitch was, how about this? Because basically, I think they've tried to indicate to us that if we try to branch out on our own, we're not gonna be approved for reimbursement directly from the E911 Commission. And they've tried to make that clear.
Because the commission is looking at this consolidation.
Yeah, they're looking at consolidated E911 model. And so if Mr. Murgo's pitch was, well, how about this? If they want to maintain 100% ownership of everything to do with their dispatch, can they flow their costs through the county, us as the primary piece out, them as call centers, maintaining and reporting everything, flow all that through us, get their reimbursement, and we can dish their reimbursement money back out to them. There was never really a solid answer. It was one that we were going to have to look at. But what we're in us talking, we agree that we like the push button option with maintaining the 911 because there is the threat that this E911 Commission could come back.
Yeah, we could accept the
2
full
years
cost
from
of
now.
this, and 2 years from now, this commission say, well, our consultants say you've got to consolidate
Yeah.
everything, and we're right back where we started
And we've
from.
spent more money by
And
trying
we
to
spent all
maintain
this
everything.
money for this way we won't have. If I could interject something, folks, I need to apologize to y'all because, in all fairness to y'all, but you know, people have knee-jerk reactions, and I try not to be one of those people, but I did. When I first saw this number, my first knee-jerk reaction was that all of you were going to vote to give up our dispatch, not just 911, but dispatch total, and we were going to be left out in the cold with dispatch. That was my knee-jerk reaction, and that's the way I took it. But in all, if you look at the numbers, and I'm not, you know, like I said, that was my fault for thinking that way, not your fault. It was my fault for thinking that way. Because, you know, the numbers I gave y'all, and I think tells the story, because what you may not know too, out of last year, the numbers I gave y'all at the beginning of the year, our dispatchers logged in, and this means they dispatched from phone calls that came into dispatch, 17,389. That's what I gave y'all on the list here.
That's called.
That's calls that they dispatched, they put in the CAD system. This came off the CAD system. That's calls that they dispatched to police officers. Well, out of that though, when you look at the numbers, only 1,400 of that was 911 calls. And half of that 1,400 was ambulance and the other half was police. So as you can see, when you boil down to the actual 911 part of it, it's a very small percentage of what we dispatch. And plus, that ain't counting there again too, by the sheet I gave y'all, you know, earlier this year, the 110 people in a 24-hour period that walk into our dispatch and ask for help because there's somebody there. So there again too, my thing now, giving y'all credit, of course, that y'all can see the numbers. We're talking about these numbers now. We're talking about 67,000 one-time capital, which we get hopefully get 80% back on. And right now we can't give you a solid answer on that. And then the 15,000 to keep up year, upkeep is a big difference from the $352,000 that was first put out there. Plus, this 17,389 regular calls that came in that our dispatchers handled, compared to only 1,400 of that being 911. You know, not 14,000, 1,400. I got that right. It ain't 14,000. It is 1,400. Small percentage. And this number here doesn't count. This is another example I used, and Lexington County admits they're not going to do this. Y'all would be amazed at the number of calls that's not included in this number. I used example, 85-year-old Miss so-and-so down the street calls in at 2 o'clock in the morning and just wants to talk to somebody about her neighbor's barking dog. That happens every day, all the time. If they didn't dispatch an officer, it never went into these numbers, but our dispatchers sit there and talk to those people. Central won't even take this. They said that they were considering trying to hire a dispatcher that would do nothing but take admin calls. And when I say that, but they won't do it. If it ain't 911, they will not answer it. Now, Casey kept throwing up because they had this big mainline water break, and of course, which we do too. Who did these people call? They never would give them an answer. Who those people would call if they have a major issue that's not police or ambulance or fire oriented. If it's a water line break or a barking dog complaint, who they go talk to? Well, they'll tell you flat, if it ain't 911, we don't answer those kind of calls. Am I stretching that?
Well, let me say this. One of the things that was put out was, if someone called and said there was a water main break and there's water gushing out, their reaction would be to send one of our officers.
Police officer.
And our officers would it would chain from that point.
Yeah.
So we'd have to build those internal standards that police officer gets there, police officer notifies dispatch that water department needs to be called out. At that point, they go down their list of people that need to call.
If it's a reverse plectron, then Crib's gonna answer the phone and she's gonna call DPW. She ain't gonna dispatch one of our officers.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And let me tell you folks, as far as technology, I used example, that's all the county can talk about is technology. But I used example, there's nothing wrong with technology, of course, but they're letting, instead of them running the technology is running them.
Well, it's dehumanizing the service.
Right. I had one of the dispatcher's husbands tell me that, I don't know if y'all went to the grand opening, I did, but they have these huge dispatch centers, and two dispatchers face each other, just like me and you right now with the screens between them. You've got your screens and I got my screens. If I'm handling municipal calls and you're handling county calls, if I get an officer of Lexington City chasing someone, I can't lean over my screen and say, hey, we got the call coming your way on number 1, get the county rolling. That ain't allowed. I got to put everything in the system, and the system has to go through the system, and you read it on your screen, and then you dispatch somebody. You know, like I said, it's all about technology. Just like they're talking about not sending somebody because they can't give the address, it has to be technology. The human side has been left out. You know, we like to feel like we still got the human side. We still got the technology. If any of you right now would go up and let one of the dispatchers or myself, I'll be glad to, show you that there's very little technology that Lexington Central has that we don't have right up here. And we're about to get a brand new dispatch console that is being bought by Homeland Security right now. That's the top of the line, the best there is in the world right now. The highest technology console system there is in the world we're about to get because of a grant through Homeland Security. So we've always tried to keep up our technology on the dispatch side because we understand it, but we haven't let the technology run away our human side. You know.
Two questions, actually.
Yes, sure.
The other two communities that may do the same thing,
Correct.
what's their opinion of the third option?
You want me to take that?
Yeah, you take that. I hadn't talked to him. He had.
In talking with the city of Casey, at this point, I believe the mindset is that they're going to fully take dispatch 100% and flow their calls through the county. Now, The difference in Casey is the amount of money that they bring in on landlines. I mean, Scana alone is 5,500 landline phones, which doubles what we have in our entire town of Batesburg-Leesville. The amount of 911 money that they bring in, even fully funding 911 themselves with reimbursement, they will make money. They will actually put more money back into their budget in keeping their, so that's not as comparable to us. West Columbia is in a much better position from the amount of money they bring in than we are, but they're still going to have to come up with new funds to pay. It's not going to be a lot if reimbursement, but all indications are they're going to fully take 100% their dispatch as well, based on what that cost is going to be for them. However, in talking with Casey after the fact, they don't disagree at this point that the consultant is being hired for one purpose, and that's to validate the board's mindset of consolidated 911. It's to provide that backing so that when they decide that they want to force everyone to make the counties do all the dispatch, they've got a highly credentialed consultant backing them on that, which eliminates some of the political pressure that can come without that justification. They agree, but because it's not going to be a lot of cost out of their pocket, they want to take it 100% for as long as they can. If it ever comes to forcing us across the board to have to give it, those battles will be fought at that time.
And I think we'll be in a better standing if we decide to go with the 911 transfer option, not the admin line transfer option. We're basically saying we're not a PSAP. Lexington County is still the PSAP. We're basically just still, we're a remote dispatch from out of the system. Mainly what I'm saying is the county will be the mainframe and we'll be a remote workstation.
Well, and another thing to consider is right now, the 911 calls come into our dispatch. Anything medical and fire, we transfer to the county. Police, we keep it. The 911 calls go to the county, now police and fire is answered. If it's anything, I mean, EMS and fire is answered by them. They dispatch. If it's police, they send it to us.
You just reverse the
It's a reversing of the roles.
transfer.
Close. And it's something I honestly don't know. All right. Fire, and emergency for Saluda County. Fire and EMS for Saluda County. They come to us and we send it.
Right now, we've been still sending it to Lexington. They've had problems with that. They've been trying to work that out. Jay now, what he has to do right now because it wasn't working, was he's wearing two pagers. He's wearing a Saluda County pager and a Lexington County pager.
Right.
So Saluda County is going to send them out directly now instead of having to transfer them to the county. Saluda's going to be sending them out
So
directly.
what I'm saying is, if I'm sitting down here just outside of in Saluda County, I'm in town limits, I dial 911, it comes to our dispatch here, right?
Well, cell phone's a whole different animal.
Well, I understand cell
because it depends on what tower it hits.
I'm not talking about it, I'm in my house.
Okay, yes, it would come to ours.
Landline.
All right, and then, you know it's Saluda County, so you send it to Lexington County?
Yes,
Okay, Lexington County
send it
says,
to Saluda.
so it's going bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
All right, now, if we go to the one button, the one PSAP where we're auxiliary station and they police back to here.
Yeah. We'll never see the fire calls.
All right, whether they're Saluda County or Lexington
If
County.
it's a landline phone, your 911 will, and you're in Saluda County, it will go to Lexington County because
Okay.
it is within our municipal boundaries.
But he's asking about Saluda Fire being dispatched.
But if it's fire or medical,
Well, I know that our fire.
we'll never know. They'll directly send it
The
to
one-
Saluda
Well,
County.
no, actually, the fire will probably come back to here.
No,
because we
the one in the city limits now has never been a problem. It's
Right.
the one in the contract area outside the city limits
Right.
that has been the problem.
In the EMS, we don't have, Lexington County EMS does not go into
No.
Saluda County, so they've got transferred to Saluda County
Correct.
EMS.
Correct.
I want y'all to know this too.
Well-
What caught in my craw was like you, that inflated
Oh,
number.
yes.
And not telling us what the indirect costs were and saying we're a burden on their system. And Ted and I talked about it, and well, everybody's flown hot. And I got really hot one day at work looking at the state 911, what the revenues were being sent to Lexington County for wireless on a quarter, 900 and some odd thousand, close to $1 million a quarter for wireless. So I sat there and I pounded out a letter that was sent to Ted, that was sent to every county council member, Joe Murgo, and the 2 people I know on the 911 board, going, okay, you're making this claim that we're such an extensive burden. I'm asking you to show me the audited figures of what Batesburg-Leesville is costing you to operate our PSAP.
You're not gonna see that.
Never heard a word. Not even a token reply. Nobody has said a word. Rebecca and Casey said the same thing.
Yeah.
Said something very
Well, she
similar.
also asked him
Mayor
about,
Elise.
like I said, about admin costs. She said, Lexington County said, okay, you're saying the admin cost is such a burden now. What is the admin cost?
That's what the indirect costs
Never
are,
got it.
whatever it costs to
Yeah.
have
Never got it.
whatever it costs for their, bookkeeping people
You have
to,
another question. Yeah, to do the paperwork.
Okay.
What was your question?
Same question.
Yeah.
Seemed like in the last 6 months, Lexington 911 center went down.
Yes.
If they go down, and our option here, option 3, then we're down as well?
Well, what they say they've done, folks, you know, I can't say this without talking about my relationship with the good Lord, and I ain't saying this frivolously because I take it very seriously. You know, when I started fighting this thing, I actually prayed about it because I can't stand an arrogant person. And that's why I can't stand Joe Murgo. I'll just go ahead and say it because he's the most egotistical, arrogant person I ever seen in my life. And you say, well, why am I saying that? I don't care if it's recorded. I told him to his face. Excuse me. But I actually, because, let me back up. When they had the grand opening of the dispatch center, his exact words were, this building can withstand a Category 5 hurricane, nothing can take it down. Okay? And I'm thinking about the Titanic here, you know, when he said that.
That's where.
That was his exact words. Well, I prayed about this, because I said, am I being arrogant or fighting with y'all saying that we want to keep 911? Is that my arrogance, wanting to do that, you know? Because I really did start feeling that way about it. So, but then, you know what? It wasn't 2 days later, the good Lord sent 2 inches of snow and it took the whole system down over there. They went completely dead. And they were dead for 2 weeks. Because
They were operating out of West Columbia.
Well, at first they switched it to West Columbia, and then they had to go back to the old dispatch system that they had abandoned and try to get it back up and running, which they finally did after 2 weeks. So, and it took them over 2 weeks to get the new one back up again. So, you know, I couldn't answer that question without talking about, you know, that, and I don't know how some of you feel about that, but that's the way it happened, honestly, you know. So, you know, because they're getting to, I have a lot of years invested, and I always felt like our people, do our people make mistakes? Sure they do, they're human, they make mistakes, but they're our people. And if they dispatch something wrong, we can go in there and we can talk to them, we can correct it, because they're ours. If they make a mistake over there, like they do, because they're human, we have absolutely no control over that. None whatsoever, zero, you know. But they're getting to, I put so many years of building this dispatch center of ours, and I'm thinking, is this my arrogance wanting to say, I'm not going to give, am I acting just, nobody can act just like him. If I'm getting close to acting like him, because I don't have styled hair and $1,000 suits to wear, but am I being arrogant too? You know, I'm joking about it, but you know, that's just the way I feel about it. I think we can give a better service. I know we give a better service. Because like I said, we have the technology, but we haven't forgotten about the human side. You know, and I like to feel like that's what's important. That's what we're all here for. That's what you were elected for. That's what y'all hired me for, is we give the human side of service to people in this town.
But in that scenario, when they went down with the snow on the ground, if we were looking at option 3, everything would go into them, and if they're dead.
Well, what they say they've done is they've gone back now where they abandoned their old system in the basement. They've refurbed it now to where that's their backup system. that they can go to that basement, it was in the basement, the old admin center where it was for years, ever since they built the building. That was their old dispatch center. And they say they've refurbed it, they've set it back up to be, it's actively, they're back up now, so if that happens again with the bunker, as I call it over there, that can't stand 2 inches of snow, if that happens again, that they can go to their backup now and go back up and keep things running on that. Yeah, we had to step in. I came up to help dispatch because she was getting inundated with phone calls, and I came up that day of the snowstorm and helped her with the phone calls. I was taking the admin phone calls while she was taking the 911 calls because we were still up and running. It wasn't, we didn't have anything to go down. She was being inundated. It took 2 people instead of 1, so that's why I came up to help. But there again too though, we were doing things admin wise. Like the little ladies was calling us to say, hey, my power's going off. What can I do about it? We were calling SC&G phone. We wasn't telling them, here's the number, call it yourself. We weren't doing that. We were doing it for them. We were calling SC&G and say, hey, so-and-so address, their power's out. Things like that. Did we have to do that? No, we didn't have to do it, but we did. We were doing that. So anyway, we stayed up. I talk too much?
No, we just got to hurry
All right,
up
so
with the
I've
rest
got a
of them.
technical question for you.
Okay, go right ahead.
All right, now, the PSAP number is, I don't realize it's the way programmed into a phone system to call when you're using an IP phone. Would be probably a 532 something number that comes in, but it rings on 911. Would that mean that our PSAP number would move to Lexington?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, basically, it'd be the same thing as you work on a workstation at work off of mainframe server.
Right.
Basically, the mainframe server would go to Lexington, and we would be a remote workstation.
Right.
Was what it would boil down to.
One of the things I do with the Red Cross is we go in and put up satellite dish when we put up headquarters, and we set up IP phones that go through the satellite and go through Washington, D.C. And so one of the things I have to do is acquire the local PSAP telephone number so that people up there can plug that in.
Right.
So if somebody dials 911, it goes to 532.
Yeah, and
whatever.
we do have that number here.
Yeah.
We do have a 532 number that is our PSAP number.
Right.
But yes, we would lose that. That would go, it would be Lexington. We would basically be only a remote workstation.
Okay.
If that's what y'all decide. Y'all can decide to keep the whole thing yourself. We can operate off of what y'all decide on. Just don't throw us away, please.
I don't think that's.
No, it's
You
not
know,
gonna
what Chief and I had talked, and I think, not that we disagreed through a lot of this process, he's obviously defended and fought for his dispatch in his department to no end, and there was no other option. That's what he's here to do. From our standpoint, the job was to analyze all scenarios, and there was a level of uncomfort through early on in the situation between he and I.
But I took him out back and.
Yeah, he wore me out. And so, at this point, Chief and I agree 100% that everything that's been put out there and everything that's on the table now, we believe the best option at this point is the push button transfer with the 911 capabilities back to our dispatch. And a lot of that is driven by, that would be, with reimbursement, that would be $16,600 annually, cost to the town.
But you got
I thought it was less than that.
No, that's the first year. That's just the capital purchase and the maintenance. After that, you're looking at about a $3,000 cost annually.
But you got to confirm that reimbursement, right?
We're confirming that reimbursement with the board and that the county is willing to let us flow that cost through them.
Right from the dang county.
Okay, so that's the 2 confirmations. But what we're asking you guys to give, because again, that board's commissioning that study for a reason. And we have indications on what that reason is, and they've tried to paint the picture without directly saying it. And one of our concerns is if we decide to 100% maintain it, obviously we're going to be looking at a lot more capital costs even with reimbursement, it's gonna be significantly more than that. That if 2 years from now, they say, you gotta give it to the county, we've got a bunch of equipment we paid for that we can't get any money back for. And so, we both agree, that's the option. If y'all give us the indication that you would be on board with what the recommendation that we would make to you guys for this option, budget-wise, confirmation from the county and the board, that's how we'll proceed with the budget.
Wallace, I'm gonna ask you directly,
Yeah, and y'all are welcome to,
given yours and my opinion, and what you have vested in this community and in this dispatch system, are you okay with this?
Yeah, my first thing was keep it totally, you know, but I'm like Teddy, I know y'all weren't sitting there looking these state guys in the face. But like he said, they were, you talking about subliminal, whatever that word is, messages. That's what he was trying to give us. I mean, he was looking us in the eye saying, talking about hiring this consulting firm and how they go be analyzing 911 and how we more efficiently can operate this statewide 911. He was telling us without telling us that that's what they
But
go
are you
do.
comfortable with
I'm
this
comfortable,
scenario
yes.
and the level of service that we can provide our citizens? I'm
Yes.
like you, I've been dug in since the beginning that we weren't gonna give up our dispatch.
Yeah.
Me too.
And see, and now they're getting to, now that when I finally come to the conclusion that I was underestimating y'all when my knee-jerk reaction was that if we get lost 911, we're losing dispatch. But as long as y'all are saying we're gonna keep dispatch, we just go readjust our 911. See what I'm saying? Because our dispatch is still an important part of this community, the services we provide for the community.
Well, I think it's vital, and
You
for
know.
any of you that haven't ever been, at one point, I used to go out and ride in the middle of the night with officers. So if none of you have ever been up to that PD at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, it'll surprise you who walks up to that door needing assistance.
It'll surprise you the number of phone calls.
We've got to keep a warm body there, 24/7. And that's what I said, and Ted and I were at loggerheads at first over this, because it scared him to death. And I just told him, I said, we're not giving it up, period, we're not giving it up.
I will truly say this, and I have butted heads from Mr. Spraley to the mayor to chief to across the board, and truly trying to analyze every aspect. But I think what's been great about this is we have looked extensively into everything. We have asked the difficult questions to the county, to the E911 board. We've had extensive discussions across the board, really analyze this. And I think that's been to our benefit to kind of at times do this, because it forced us to look as deep as we could look at this. And I can truly sit right here and say that Chief's 100% and I'm 100%, and we've done all the analysis that we can do. We're just awaiting 2 people to say you can get the funding, the reimbursement. We are very comfortable with asking you guys to go with this option.
With this system, will we, the citizenry, notice any difference?
No. You shouldn't. There again too, we're still now depending on Central to kick that call to us. But there should not be any call once, because if any of you dial 911, you know they'll say 911, police, fire, medical. They should, because as soon as it comes on the screen, it tells you who has jurisdiction. It tells you who the police are in that jurisdiction, who the fire, and who the ambulance is. It tells you on the screen. If she or he, dispatcher's looking at the screen, as soon as they say police, that dispatcher should push that button and kick it directly to us. So there again too though, now, to answer your question fairly, we are now putting Lexington Central into the equation, whereas right now, they're not in the equation.
Well, and there's some things that we're gonna have to talk about with the county from standards and policy standpoint.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is, you take the example, is your emergency police, fire, medical, or it's police. Okay, hang on one second for being LPD. Well, really what you're talking about is a situation where someone's been shot in the stomach in a shooting. It's police and it's medical. I would like for their dispatchers, when a police call is transferred, to hang long enough on that phone to hear what the call is.
Our people hang.
And our
do.
people
Our people
hang,
hang.
but I want their policy to be that if it's police, hang long enough to hear what's going on. I need police officers. My buddy's been shot in the stomach in a drive-by shooting. Okay, you got a situation that involves police and medical. Once we've asked the police questions, at that point, the county dispatcher can unmute their phone, start right into asking the medical questions that they need to ask them. That's the things that we are going to have to really analyze to make sure that we're comfortable that their dispatchers are going to do these little things such as that. And that'll be a process, and that's something we'll have to talk about. Anything further? Okay. Anybody opposed to us with the confirmation of from these people of reimbursement that we push towards budgeting for this scenario? Push button transfer now.
I said hell no.
Okay.
I thought you said hello.
All right. What I'm trying as much as I can kick it up. One of the things I'm gonna try and get through this, guys, and I hadn't